Let's be honest about the world we're waking up to every day. We live in an age of acute turmoil. It is in times exactly like these that we instinctively turn to our leaders. We look for answers. And what do we find? Sadly, our leaders are often found wanting. It seems so many leaders, whether in the halls of national government, on the mimbar or behind the pulpit, are in the positions they are in to benefit themselves at our expense. Which leaves us with a terrifying and essential question. If we can't trust the people at the top, where do we turn for answers? Welcome to Muslim Matters. I am Fahim Mohammed, holding on for Haji Ahmed for this week. Let's be honest about the world we're waking up to every day. We live in an age of acute turmoil. It's not unprecedented. And the reality today echoes the periods of time such as the rise of the Mughals, the age of exploration, or in general the fall of empires. But what's different today is that we are hyper-connected. We don't just hear about a crisis days or weeks after the event. We watch it unfold in real time on our screens, in our palms, from every corner of the globe. And what are we watching? Volatile trade wars and tariff economics that rewrite rules overnight, inflation and resource scarcity that shrinks the value of our hard work by the hour. We see technology disrupting entire industries, displacing jobs and creeping into the most private corners of our individual lives. Or thoughts even, it seems. You ever thought about something and saw it show up on your social media? Our feeds are a fire hose of warfare, even genocide. We scroll past environmental collapse, climate disasters and epidemic outbreaks. And running through it all, a thread of political interference and assault on our independent institutions and seemingly the very idea of a self-governing society. In the face of all of this, there are a few who are amassing unimaginable wealth, while many more are struggling simply to survive. And across the board, rich, poor, and everywhere in between, there's this palpable sense of depression, of angst, restlessness, instability, and an ugly us versus them form of tribalism. It is in times exactly like these that we instinctively turn to our leaders. We look for answers, for a plan, for some kind of moral compass, or even reassurance, a way out. And what do we find? Sadly, our leaders are often found wanting. They measure up short, not just on effort, but also on intention. It seems so many leaders, whether in the halls of national government, on the mimbar or behind the pulpit, are in the positions they are in to benefit themselves at our expense. Which leaves us with a terrifying and essential question. If we can't trust the people at the top, where do we turn for answers? In a vacuum of effective leadership, the instinct is to panic or to become apathetic, despair even, and a propensity to give up. But the truth is, as Muslims, we are guided by the source references, the Qur'an and Sunnah, and the scholarship of the past and the present. So that being the case, how do we navigate this turbulence in these times? First of all, we can discern the signal from the noise. Turmoil is amplified by a 24/7 attention economy that profits from our outrage and our fear. When leadership is self-serving, it often uses disinformation and propaganda as a tool. Truth becomes the first casualty. The Quran warns us about the dangers of acting upon unverified information, especially when it's spread by those with ill intent. Allah commands, O you who have believed, if a sinful person comes to you with information, investigate it, lest you harm a people out of ignorance and become, over what you have done, regretful. And this is the Quran 49 verse 6. So curate your information intake, not just for mental health, but for spiritual survival. Step away from the endless news cycle and sit with the Quran. This is not an act of escape. It's a mechanism to obtain intelligence from the source directly, and in doing so to strengthen faith and to build resistance. And speaking of resistance, looking at Muslim society throughout history, it is clear that Islam is built on surviving turmoil and turbulence. From corrupt rulers such as Nimrod and Pharaoh, we see time and again a small band of believers holding firm to truth and cultivating a community of character in a shadow of tyranny, preserving the embers of faith to rebuild when Allah causes the tyrants to perish. In every single dark era, the light was kept by individuals who turned away from corruption, spectacle, and focused on preserving knowledge, nurturing their local communities, and creating art and meaning in the shadows. To protect and cultivate the ember of what comes next, so that when the turmoil passes, there is something worth rebuilding. If the macro structures, the government, the big institutions, even the religious leaders are failing, your stability must come from the micro. Don't underestimate the radical power of a small, trustworthy group. The Prophet, peace be on him, lived as a leader in a hostile society. And the first thing he built was not a political party, but Darul Arqam, the tightly knit community of faith where believers supported one another materially and spiritually. And the Quran tells us this, and hold firmly to the rope of Allah altogether and do not become divided. This mutual aid is the Islamic antidote to institutional decay. When the state fails to protect, the community feeds. When the state spreads depression, the community offers brotherhood. And when the state thrives on fear and helplessness, the community offers hope. Corrupt leaders often stay in power by dividing the population into warring tribes. The us versus them frame is a trap. It renders everyone either a helpless victim waiting for a savior or an aggressor blaming a scapegoat. The Islamic worldview dismantles this by framing everyone's trial individually. If you are poor and struggling, you are tested with patience and with contentment. If you are rich and powerful, the test is humility, gratitude, and justice. So that rampant wealth and unbridled power isn't a sign of triumph or dominance. It's a profound and often terrifying test. Looking at it from this lens changes the focus from envy or victimhood to one of principled concern. Worldly elevation puts persons as subjects of a coming inevitable audit. And our Prophet, peace be on him, said, the poor among the Muslims will enter paradise half a day or 500 years before the rich, because the wealthy will be held to a protracted account. So instead of cursing their apparent victory or unscrupulousness, it would be far better for you to focus on your own test. We often judge our actions by their outcome. Did I fix the economy? Did I stop the war? Against these giant problems, an individual's outcome will inevitably be failure, which leads to despair. What can I do? Corrupt leaders aim for outcomes that enrich themselves. How can I benefit? The Islamic model centers everything on the purity of intention and the pursuit of Allah's pleasure, or rida, regardless of the worldly outcome. The success of a believer isn't in achieving a policy win. It's in the process of trying to please Allah when the odds are impossible. The Prophet, peace be on him, said actions are based on intentions, and every person will have only what they intended. If you speak truth to power, and power doesn't relent, it's not that you've failed. You have earned a reward for your intention. Your action becomes worship, not a transaction for a guaranteed earthly result. The goal is not to single-handedly defeat global corruption or tyranny, but to act with integrity, with kindness, and with courage today, and stand firm on principle regardless of the result. Did you speak up for a colleague who was defenseless? Did you refuse to spread a rumor that was unverified? That's a values-based victory entirely within your domain, and value-based action rooted in principles is a mental fortress that external turmoil cannot breach. We saw it with Noah, we saw it with Musa or Moses, we saw it with the Imam Hussein, and we saw it in the most beautiful form with Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him. The tyrants of our time may not carry swords. They carry job offers that demand our silence. They carry social pressure that ridicules our conviction. They carry systems that reward compliance and punish the truth. The temptation to bend, to wait for easier circumstances, to tell ourselves that one person's stand will not matter. This is the quiet battlefield every principled leader faces. In a time when those entrusted with power have traded their principles for profit, we are not left without a map. We filter the noise through revealed truth. We find our strength not in palaces of the powerful, but in small circles of the sincere. And we anchor our success not to a political outcome, but to the one who sees our intentions. The turmoil is real, but so is the promise that after every hardship comes ease. And our task is to be worthy of that ease when it arrives. In the last episode, we spoke about Imam Hussein. He stood when standing was costly. He spoke when silence was safe. He persevered when endurance seemed impossible. And he did it not for power, but for principle, not for victory, but for witness. His legacy shows us the value of a stand is not measured by its immediate outcome. It's measured by its truth. Some stands must be taken simply because they're right, even if no one joins you, even if the cost is everything. But it must be taken with wisdom and in consideration of the Islamic guidelines. We will be called to account, remember. But when we surrender our principles, we lose something far greater than comfort or safety. We lose the very self that was meant to stand. That choice we face every day. The choice is yours to make. May Allah guide you through it.